Hey guys, and welcome to Star Technology Progression Log 12. I keep almost saying Monty Factory every time, by the way. Uh, I actually have a decent amount of stuff to show you. Um, where to start? Where to start? I guess we'll go over here and start with fusion. I have a Mark II fusion reactor. This is something that I mentioned last time. I needed a Mark II fusion reactor for many things. In this case, we're making argon plasma. And I guess the last time that whatever you're fusing would change the color of the glowing effect inside, and that is the case. That is true. It does actually change it. So this one's green. I have a second one over here that's planned, but I didn't get around to setting this up last night. Um, so this needs to be set up, but it is here. Unfortunately, obviously, I am out of room, so the roof is going to have to come off in this building, and I'm going to have to start building the towers. I didn't remove the Mark 1s because I didn't really feel like it. They're not as good. Like, they're about... So it's two Mark 1s for the same speed as a Mark 2, effectively. But Mark 2s are pretty damn expensive. Uh, so I was like, it's fine. They just keep working. I do have the fuel preparation stuff over here. I have an extractor. One of these makes liquid magnesium, and one of these makes liquid carbon. I forget which one. This one's magnesium, and that means this one's carbon. Um, so we have argon plasma now, and that means if I come over here, I have four plasma turbines, as well as argon plasma and argon gas. The argon gas is a nice byproduct of this. I won't say that it's a particularly useful byproduct in this amount. We don't really use argon, all that argon, or we don't use a lot of argon. It's not something uh, that gets used in too much stuff. Most of it is used in like EBF recipes, and even then, it's like maybe a bucket at most. I think in most cases it's like 100 millibuckets. So, I don't actually know if argon is used for. Yeah, like 50 millibuckets for that one. 50, 50, 50. Oh, it's even. So it's that one's 100. So all this stuff is like not that much. Oh, this one's 8 buckets, but you don't need to make too many of these. Um, what else? Anything interesting? 2 buckets for that one, which is the hot ancient netherite ingots. Uh, yeah, so you don't really use too much of this stuff. So, the argon gas is nice, but we have plenty from other sources, so it's like whatever. Um, but these things produce a fuckload of power. They have prismalium rotors in there, and prismalium is even better than dragon steel, and dragon steel is already really fucking good. So each one of these things is 564% efficiency, which is awesome. Let me pull up the prismalium rotor. Prismalium rotor is 470 in total with 1600 percent on power. So that's quite a lot. We have four of them. So power is really we have 33 million RF per tick worth of power. Um, this is just four turbines. They run all the time. I think it's because I just have an extra backlog of plasma. Um, I keep running into a full power buffer, which means everything shuts off, and then these things have to take time to spool up, and it's really annoying. And it's been like this for quite a while. Where and I used to solve it just by spamming more flux storages. I just don't really feel like doing that anymore. I I just don't care. I have such a huge power buffer, and all the fuel that I use for power is so freaking cheap. I don't care if it's inefficient at this stage. I have so many storages. Let's see if I can. I have 123 storages, and all of those are the 128 million or the 128 billion flux storage or something, right? Is that what they are? Uh, Flux storage, let's see. That is, yep, that's 128 billion, which is times 10 to the ninth. I have a calculator, so hold on. I'm gonna tell you how much it is. That's 1.5 times 10 to the 13th power, uh, RF worth of storage. That's a lot. That's a ridiculous buffer. And I just don't care anymore if I waste some power or some argon plasma or steam and diamonds. It just doesn't fucking matter to me anymore. um, Carbon comes from many, many sources. We make it from I had to here. You know what? Before I go over to Petrochem, we make it from a bunch of sources, and I'll probably talk a little bit about that in a minute. I do believe since last time I added a few more engines. I wanted to add another set, but honestly, I'm done. Setting these things up is fucking annoying. They're really, really powerful, and I've gotten pretty good at. I can set one up, but it still takes several minutes. It's just really fucking tedious. I have to configure 4 different fluid pumps on every single one of these fluid tanks or these super tanks, and it's just really obnoxious. uh, they're really good though. They produce an absolute monstrous amount of steam. Each one of these things produces. Oh, hold on. Let me actually do the math again because there's 16 engines. 14,400 is 203. So 203 buckets a tick worth of steam. That's each one of these engines. So that's quite a lot. It's a lot of steam. Uh, no, it can't be that because those things are producing way more than that, right? 200. No, it is like that. They just pull out in chunks, I guess. I don't know. Because it's 203,400 millibuckets, which is 230 millibuckets and some change. Uh, anyway. So lots of steam, burns lots of diamonds, but I don't care. So it's inefficient, but fuck. Yeah, I don't care. I guess we'll go talk about mm, on demand. I also have a little platform up here because I got really annoyed about trying to hunt for stuff on the same level. On demand has seen some big changes. As in, I've started rebuilding stuff, and this was really funny. I always talked about how I was waiting to rebuild on demand so I could use the 64x parallel hatches, which I do have. I do have the 64x parallel hatches. The problem is when I was setting up on demand, all of these things they were expensive enough and they took so freaking long that I didn't feel like using 64x parallel hatches because I was building several machines. Um, well, so I was using 16x, which I've had for a while. So I could have built this weeks ago if I wanted to, and I just didn't. So now I did. But what's nice is I'm never gonna rebuild this again. Like this is just how it's gonna be forever. I'm gonna have 4 benders. I'm gonna have 4 forming presses. I have 8 mixers, set up into 2 blocks. Each one of these things has a subnet and stuff, and we could take a look and um, this terminal here shows me if there's anything in the subnet down here. So I guess I'll go ahead and talk about how these things work. So these benders are on a subnet, and this is BlueNet. So mainnet has just passes these recipes to subnet. The subnet has this is actually really cool. There's these things called cell docs. They're not very well known because they have a really terrible name. So whenever you're searching up storage or drive, they don't actually show up. But they're a panel component that stores one drive. So you don't need ME chests or ME drives to store your subnet stuff. You can just use a couple of ME cell docks, and these work fantastic. Um, Anyway, so we have the products go or the ingredients go into this little storage thing. We have the ME stocking input buses on all the individual benders and stuff. They are all set to stocking. They produce and we use the ME input buses here. These are the ones that set the circuit. And here's an interesting fact. So when you set like a dynamic recipe that can change the circuit number using the program circuit card, it creates a ghost item that is deleted, I guess. And so some of these things are broken and won't work properly because you can see in this recipe that it only has one programmed circuit, but I have 2 storage buses, so it's only going to set one of those circuits. I didn't know this for a while when I realized that the benders were kind of really unstable, and sometimes they wouldn't produce like half of the things that were ordered, and I was really confused. And it's because I have 2 storage buses that require a program circuit card. There's one here for that pair of machines, and there's one on this pair of machines. So it was only setting the circuit for 2 of them. So if you need basically to have as many program circuit cards in the recipe as you have storage buses. So for all of these things, this will be a problem, and I'm gonna have to come in here and here. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna multiply that by 2. There we go. Problem solved. I'm producing these things in ridiculous fuck off batches because honestly, I don't care. There's like four things in these benders that maybe I give a shit about in terms of cost, and it's like europium, which I won't care about for much longer. Like even like enriched nacquid or trinium, I don't give a shit about at this stage. Like I'm loaded. I'm loaded. So it's like, whatever. Um, yeah, so I had to set that for all of the recipes. So for a while when I was encoding recipes, I was worried more multiple programming circuits in the recipe would break it. But after a while, I realized it would work, and I was too lazy to set it. So for a lot of them, they were set fine. So I have to go through and change all of them over time, which is really fucking annoying. um, so it is what it is. So when you are setting up these your own little sub crafting subnets, remember to have plenty of at least one program circuit card item in the encoded recipe per item storage bus you are using to set the circuit. That is very, very important. Otherwise, you'll get lots of issues. Um, so, yep, there we go. I also over here, I have these are large wire factories. I have 8 of them. I ain't waiting on wires anymore. Maybe this is ridiculous. It probably is, but I don't fucking care. I'm done. I'm never touching this shit again. This is just how it's gonna be. We're gonna have some super powered on demand. And if this isn't enough, I'm even with like the big parallel hatches and overclocked like crazy. In that case, I'll just freaking wait. um, I also have a bunch of macerators over here. I do a lot of maceration, like for some things, like over here. Mostly it's for like making steel and flux dust and stuff. Also, some of the dusts get used in various alloys. Um, so uh, we don't have too many things over here, but for some things like ME components, we make a lot of. Like steel dust, we need a lot of that stuff. Skystone is one of these things we use an absolute shitload of too. So, uh, having 8 macerators here was very, very nice for that. I over here, I also will have 6 benders. I'm going to build 6 more probably. I just have to move this LCR and that assembler somewhere. I am slowly converting the old on-demand system into a better one, and just replacing all the machines and using all of the old space. You will notice that the space is going into where the tree farm was. I had a couple of crashes last week. I don't know if this happened last week the last progress log. I don't remember. I do know that I talked about removing it at some point, and I did remove it because I had a couple of crashes, and when I came back after a while, I realized that the gantry arm was gone. I assume one of the crashes like deleted it. So instead of rebuilding it, I was just like, oh fuck it. I just removed it. I got rid of it. And then I started reusing that space for on-demand expansion. So that's been really nice. Um, let's see. I guess we'll talk about. Uh, Actually, we'll talk about this first. So this is one of this hasn't seen any changes at all, and I need to actually rip all of it out. All of this stuff is legacy stuff that I had set up actually like when I built the base originally to help build the building blocks that I needed. Everything from like sand and gravel and stuff to various kinds of wood to dyes as well, and then as well as making all of them. And while some of this stuff is nice, I'm pretty sure I can do a lot of this. Are actually a lot of these dyes are being done through mystical agriculture now, or can be done through mystical agriculture. Um, as for the concrete, I don't actually know how that can probably be done in a mixer and a chemical bath. Uh, yes, this can be done in a mixer recipe with red dye, so chemical red dye. And this can be done in uh yeah, and I can also just, do the washing step in here, or I can make white dye or white concrete. Anyway, so, I can remove all of the stuff if I want to, which I might. As for things like wired red concrete, that can probably, that's a, okay, that's a mechanical saw recipe, which I believe it counts as a stone cutter, right? Yeah, so a stone cutter recipe can be done in mystical agriculture assemblers. Um, so all this stuff can move, and I probably won't need 2 million obsidian, so I can probably just stop farming that if I want to. These fractioning distillers that produce distilled water produce so little compared to the steam engines that I can just get rid of them. The steam engines produce an absolute shitload of distilled water. And that is one thing, they're never going to go away. Even after they are no longer viable or useful in terms of power, which I think they always will be. They produce quite a bit, especially as you keep scaling them with rotors and stuff. Steam engines are always going to be a thing for the space just because we use so much distilled water and they're such a good source. I think they're the best source for distilled water you can find. Um, so they're gonna stick around, and that means I can remove these fractioning distilleries because they honestly kind of suck for distilled water. Um, this hasn't seen any changes actually. Oh, I do actually want to mention that these vacuum freezers are gonna have to get they're too slow now. I thought this would be fast enough, and for some of the bulk crafts, the answer is no. It takes too long. Specifically, the biggest problem is when it comes to liquid helium, and there are a couple of options I have for this. The option I had recently was just to give them all a 4 amp ZPM energy hatch, and I think that helped fix the problem. I think I just need to build some bulk freezers. I think I just need to build like two of them so there's actually a couple of I have some interesting knowledge when it comes to vacuum freezer multi blocks. So there's the regular vacuum freezer. Most people are used to the regular vacuum freezer and then the bulk blast chiller. And the bulk blast chiller is normally locked behind like UV stuff or like like neutronium. At least it was in Monty Factory. So I never really looked at the bulk blast chiller, but the bulk blast chiller is actually totally doable. This is gated behind UV circuits, which is just gated behind crystals. So we have this. In terms of the research station, I do believe I actually need to set up the network switch before I can do the research because this is 24 a tick, and I don't think I can do 24 a tick. Um, so I do need the but that's also UV, I believe. I believe uh, network switch is actually, this is 34 CW ticks, so we can totally do that because it obviously can't chain them together without it. Um, so we can actually do that like right now. It's not that expensive. They are pretty fucking big, and it would be kind of a struggle to get them in here. Um, but I think it would be doable. I could rebuild it. Obviously, I could tear out some space because I'm not using the frickin' uh, EBFs over here. So I can rip out that space and reuse it. And I think I would build at least two, maybe even three if I could fit them in here. I'm really tired of waiting on vacuum freezers again. But I think for now it's probably all right. They are at UV speed, which is pretty freaking fast. Um, so I want to back to the topic that I was originally talking about. Most people are used to just those two vacuum freezers, right? The regular 3x3 and the bulk blast chiller. However, StarTech has this version of GregTech has something called the Arctic Chilling Unit. This is a throughput boosted vacuum freezer. This it's pretty big. It's 5 by 4 by 5. Um, but it does throughput boosting like the hardened industrial furnace, as well as like the chambered alloy transmuter, which is the hardened industrial alloy furnace for the ABS. That one is really cool looking, chambered. Take a look at this. Look how cool this multi-block is. It's fucking huge though. It's basically just three ABSs glued together in terms of coil count and speed. Uh, it can only take one energy hatch though, which is a sort of minor problem. Um, it does mean you can't like upvolt for some recipes like what I'm doing right now. So you either need so right now it's not a problem with having EBFs on with the hardened industrial furnace with only one energy hatch, because I have ones that can take two in the ABSs. So that means some recipes I can overvolt in the ABS instead, with using two energy hatches to get to a recipe above. That's what I mean. Um, but if I use the cats for this one, that's no longer the case, which means I would need something that could overvolt. The thing is with the overvolt is I've done like one ingot that way, and that was osmium. I don't know if anything else that would really matter that much. Maybe a couple, but at this stage, kind of like eh. And I could always have a couple cats for bulk stuff, and then just leave the EBFs behind for um or leave the old ABSs behind for stuff that has to be overvolted. Or the other option is just to actually set up a block of EBS just to do the 2 energy hatch recipes as few times as possible, and then do them in bulk when I can with the better energy hatches. That's probably the better option, and that's probably something I'm going to switch to. But I have other like this is it's kind of a bottleneck sometimes, but it's pretty fast. I'm all right with it. These are all running at UHV speeds, so they're pretty quick. Um, and I don't. They all have 16x. Yeah, they have 16x. So like, um, all right, that's it for on demand over here. And now I'm gonna spend quite a bit of time over here with my assembly line rebuild. I want to do this because I didn't come up with this system. I was given this system by a friend. But I want to go over this system pretty thoroughly as a tutorial for other people, as well as myself if I forget. So let's go ahead and let's get into assembly line parallelization. So, first off, to parallelize assembly lines, we are going to have a couple of subnets involved. Um, so GreenNet here is mainnet, and GreenNet has all the pattern providers and stuff here. All of these are set to blocking mode, default blocking mode. All of these recipes are encoded with one recipe at a time. This feeds into our control network, PinkNet. PinkNet is connected to, that's okay. Also, light blue net here is an assembly line. This is the same network as, say, the light blue network on an assembly line with the storage buses over there. So, that's what these wireless hubs are for. As a note, you don't need wireless hubs. I used wireless hubs for a debug version of this that I ended up not actually needing. So these are unnecessary. You don't technically need wireless for this either. It would just be a freaking nightmare to wire it up without it. So wireless is recommended. I'm heavily recommending wireless. Um, all right. So we also are going to need some inverted toggle buses, and how this works is we have a ME level emitter attached to the assembler subnet. This is just viewing no specific item greater than 1. What this does is this will turn on when the subnet has more than one item in it. When this is on, it turns off this inverted toggle bus, which cuts off this pink net that stores items in the assembly subnet. So this will pass a recipe to the assembly subnet, even though it seems like it would trigger on the passing the first item and then causing the pattern to fragment. That is not the case. Uh, Applied Energistics will pass the entire recipe in one go. It will just when it passes that packet, it will just pass the items in correct order. Um, so when we have more than one item in there, so let's say we pass one recipe, it starts, we pass in another recipe that's waiting in the bus, that's more than one item, it turns on this level emitter, which turns off this toggle bus, which cuts off this pink net, which means it won't pass any more recipes to that. These are all set to report inaccessible items, insert only, and then that's what all of these are set to. These are all identical. I also have these set on priority. So this is priority 0. This one is priority 1. This one priority 2. I don't know if that part is necessary. I was doing that during a debug, but I think it's probably a good idea anyway. So there we go. I have only 4 of these set up right now. This is another planned 4, but I don't have them yet. So coming back over to an assembly line over here, we can see how these are set up. So we have the wireless down here, the wireless node that's connecting to whatever one is up there. These have a storage bus on the EV non-uple input. I don't believe you need a non-uple. I think a quadruple would be enough, but I wanted to do a non-uple anyway, just so I wouldn't have to come down here and fix it. Then all of these ME storage buses are just set with priority normally. So this one is 0, this one is 1, this one is 2, going all the way up to 15. This is because in Star Technology, you do have to pass items in order. That does matter. So you just have to set the priority on these storage buses to do it. So it puts the first item up here, second item, third item, fourth item, fifth item, all the way down. And that's it. It's actually not that complex in order to set it all up. So we just have a control network here that basically gets cut off whenever there's an item set in the applied in the assembly network that is waiting to be crafted. So it won't turn off while it's working on one. It'll turn off when it has a pattern waiting. Um, there you go. That's it. So this is easily extendable as well. I can just drag this out and keep adding more and more and more. And it works fantastic. I can also just add more pattern providers. As a note, there's actually expanded pattern providers that I didn't actually know about. This is a higher tier of pattern providers that has even more patterns, and I haven't made these. I didn't realize these existed. These are gated behind Ivy and Netherite. So I might start making some of these things, honestly. But I haven't gotten around to it yet. But that's unrelated to the assembly line. So there you go. I am not an expert on this system by any means. Oh crap! I want to make one note. All of the storage buses on the assembly line need to be set to report inaccessible items as well. All of that needs to all the storage buses on this system need to report that. Otherwise, the system doesn't know that it shouldn't put anything in there anymore. So there you go. All right. Um, I do have a data bank over here. I've moved everything into this data bank. So this assembly line over here and this data bank are totally legacy. They don't actually do anything anymore. I plan to move the research station over here and then add more assembly lines next to this one. That will be a total of 8 assembly lines so far. I don't know if that will be enough, but if it's not, I can always extend this out a little bit more. Just add like, I don't know, there's like plenty of space over here. I can just drag this out for quite some time and add in easily double the number of assembly lines. I think. I don't think that would be a problem. Um, and I think that would be plenty. I think there's also the super assembler. Did I see a super assembler in this pack? Uh, maybe it's the component core. That's not that one. Component chamber. Don't know what that. Oh, component nexus. Uh, boosted component assembler. Uh, what does this do? This makes exactly one assembly line recipe. Oh, nope, there's only the assembly line. Okay, so that's interesting. All right. Let's see. What's next? I guess I'll talk about ore processing. We'll talk about, or actually, we'll talk about ore production first, and then we'll talk about ore processing. Ore production has seen some serious upgrades since I am now able to afford both the power and the parallel hatches to make it ridiculously, powerful, as well as the ore processing to take care of that. There's an asterisk on that though. So all of these rock sifters got the 64x parallel hatches. I also added one more over here. I plan to add maybe another one, but this is good enough for now. But here's a really funny story. When I came down here to add the third one, I realized that the second one that has been running for quite some time now wasn't actually plugged in at all. It was just caching stuff in the ME output bus. So I dumped that in and had like 300,000 ore I had to process immediately. Um, and that is not the only time I did that. Down over here by the void extractors, I did that as well. In sort of I ran out of channels to pass down here, and I didn't realize it, and it wasn't dumping the outputs into the network to be stored in over there. So I had huge buffers over here that were waiting to be stored, and I dumped several million ore actually into it. These also got the 64 parallel hatches as well, and also overclocked to LUV. So we have absolute monstrous amounts of ore coming in. We are capable of processing this as we have upgraded to the IV multi-blocks. As an interesting fact, I don't actually know if these are faster than the number of parallel, or like the perfect overclock ones I had. I've noticed that I have a very large buffer. Um, Specifically when it comes to washing. I believe washing is a bottleneck again, um, which is really weird. I thought they would be faster, and I think it's just because of the sheer number of them. I had a fuckload of washers. So it's possible that I don't have enough. Or obviously, I don't have enough. Um, So there are actually two things with this. I have dumped huge amounts of ore in massive bursts, in multiple times. I have huge stockpiles of stuff to centrifuge from raw ore slurry, oxygenous mineral mixtures, sulfuric, uranium hexafluoride. I have like absolute shitloads of stuff to process because of forgetting to connect stuff. Um, so I don't know if these bottlenecks are actual bottlenecks or just some stages being slightly faster than others, but still being fast enough to take care of the general rate of that I get in ore. I don't know, and I think the answer is just add more stuff, which I'm okay with. Uh, I'm okay with just adding more. Um, I do have to add at least, I'm planning to add at least four more washers over here. However, that would reach the end of the ore processing block that I built, which would mean that I would either have to stack them, overclock them some more. Every single one of these machines here, um, except for the tungsten one, because I haven't touched these because we don't have that much tungsten coming in, is running at ZPM with 64x parallel hatches. That's quite a lot of ore that it's processing. I don't know if it's fast enough, so I might throw like 4 amp on them, which would be ridiculous. But I don't know. I also have the thermal centrifuges and the centrifuges over here. The centrifuges are also pretty freaking slow, especially for some of these. I don't know what they're processing right now. Probably oxygenous material or something like that. Um, these also do platline. This one's doing platline outputs. Uh, so I have to throw just a bunch of more stuff over here. I have sort of the power to do it. I have only about 5 million worth of buffer overhead, so I don't really want to add too much more until I get some more plasma turbines going, which would not be difficult. I could support up to 7 with those two fusion reactors that I showed before. Once I get the second one up, I can add 3 more fusion reactors. Um, and if I can always maybe add a few more fusion reactors for plasma, um, I don't know, but for now this should be fine. I have 6 electrolyzers over here. Doing electrolyzer business. Very good. I haven't changed the sifters yet. I need to upgrade these things. These are also a new bottleneck, but I didn't get around to it last night. Same goes for the autoclaves. The autoclaves are still on their normal perfect overclock ones, but they're fast enough for now that I'm not really too concerned about it at this stage. Uh, I really like word processing. Word processing is a lot of fun. And even despite it not being quite fast enough, we are still quite loaded. You will notice that there are some geodes over here. That is a mistake. So down over here, I realized stuff wasn't properly getting put into here. When I was checking over there, I'm like, hey, there's a lot of ore in some of these buses. Why aren't they getting moved? And that's because I fucked up some storage buses over there, and it filled all of these interfaces with geodes, and it was a lot. Every single one of these oversized interfaces was filled with geodes, and I just didn't want to dump it into the void because it seemed really laggy. Because it was a lot of items. It was a lot of items. So the answer, what I did is I just put them in the output network, and then I allowed the cutters over there to see them, so they'll extract from here, and they actually are, because this was 88,000 when I did this like 20 minutes ago, and now it's down to, oh, there we go. It just pulled them out. So it's going to pull them out, and then I can unfilter that if I care about it, which I probably don't. Um, so yeah, ore processing, very, very good. We are extremely loaded. We have a shitload of sulfuric acid, and I was like, man, we were low on hydrogen for a while. I'll talk about petrochem in a second. Um, and I was like, well, I have a bunch of sulfuric acid I could try to recycle, right? Because you need hydrogen for that. Sulfuric acid does use hydrogen. However, there is no way to crack it. Like I thought there was a recipe to electrolyze it back into like hydrogen and then sulfur and oxygen. And the answer to that is no. That you can't do that. Maybe that was a thing in Bonnie Factory, and that's what I'm thinking of. But it's not. That's not the case in here. So unfortunately, I just have ridiculous amounts of sulfuric acid, which is all right. We do use that stuff, but we get it from so many places. We get it from NACline, we get it from Platline. Platline is sulfuric acid positive. NACline is sulfuric acid positive. Um, so I don't actually have to make it anymore, like from LCRs, because it's we get so much of it from other sources. Uh, so I don't know. Coming over, actually, I want to talk about, make some notes over here about the deep slate line. As I upgraded one of the centrifuges to a multi-block one, this is way faster. I also added a drive over here, a bulk storage drive for deep slate dust, and we have 35 million of that stuff. We had absolute shitloads of it caching in the buses, and I just wanted to, bring them out so I could use some multi-blocks. I felt like upgrading them because we actually use biotite dust now. It makes biotite dust gives us magnesium, which this is our source of magnesium, our main one anyway. So this is what I because I'm doing fusion. This is what I want. I want to make sure this is we're processing a lot more of this stuff. Uh, why aren't you running? You have power. Oh, because here, let me go ahead and change this to a stocking input bus because it's no longer using storage buses. Uh, before I forget, and there we go. Nice. I don't care about that small amount. All right, back to work. Eventually I'm probably gonna upgrade that one with a centrifuge unit as well, but I think this is good enough for now. So, um, all right, what's next? I guess we'll make some notes about mystical agriculture. This hasn't seen too many changes. Besides, I actually added in some slime seeds for slime essence because I need plant bulbs for stuff. Specifically for fermented biomass, need lots and lots and lots of that stuff. It looks like we're actually that's weird. I don't like that I have a stockpile. That seems bad to me. I'll have to take a look at Petrochem. Um, I also want to make a note down here of how I fixed the problems I was having with Uraninite. So one thing I noticed is that the requester that I was using. Okay, so in order to basically cycle the chemicals in order for essence burning for Nether Star, rod production, right? Blizz cubes, Nether or blaze rods, etc., etc. I needed to burn off the excess crown, 15 crown 5. And I was doing that by making raw pitch blend. And the original idea I had was I was going to use a requester, but all the items that the requester would make, raw pitch blend, would be dumped into mainnet, which would dump it directly into the ore processing network. Um, but the problem is it was, creating as much as it should, and then it was just turned off, and it wouldn't make any more, even though it didn't have any in the storage network, and I couldn't figure out why. Um, so what I did instead is coming down over here, I just use an export bus that just dumps raw pitch blend into mainnet. This doesn't even need a crafting card or anything like that. It just endlessly exports stuff into mainnet. I don't like export buses. This is the only export bus I have in the base, but nothing else works. So this is just how it is. So the requester does just, keep tapping away at it. And now we actually don't even have enough 15 crown 5 to make more of it, but I don't care. This is only to recycle the fluid in order to get the stuff I need back for 12 crown 4 Li. That's what I really care about. Um, yep, this works now. It's all good. It stops breaking down. I wonder how many nether stars I have. Oh, 6,000, 6,400. That's pretty good. I also have a bunch of these tiny piles, which I can also use in the implosion compressor, so I might do that as well, recycling some of that stuff. But the tiny piles come from Knackline as a byproduct. Um, these come from the dimensional stabilizer. When it makes raw Naquita, it has a chance to make a tiny pile, and we are running that at like UV, I think. Oh, that doesn't go up for chance. All right. There's a few other recipes in the dimensional stabilizer. None of them I care about right now. Crooksite I will probably care about later, but for now this is the only one I give a shit about. So, uh, yep. I did add. I ripped out a couple of seeds over here. I forget what was over here. I think that was life essence. No, life essence was on top. Uh, I don't think there was anything in the bottom ones. And then I added. My God, that's loud. Do I have a hard hammer on me? No. I don't know. Anyway, that's really freaking loud. Um, I'm growing some slime seeds for plant pulse because we'll go talk about uh Petrochem. Yeah, I was wondering if I should talk about nether stars, but I haven't made too many changes to that. Um, so I upgraded the gas collectors to LUV tier because they were too slow for how fast I was turning it into liquid. It was the bottleneck. I also ripped out the compressors as well as the centrifuge for deuterium. We no longer use deuterium. We use deuterium to make the, uh, I believe it was Blitz, uh, in the LCR. Yes. We used to use deuterium to make Blitz in the LCR for Nether Stars. However, it's not used in anything else other than fusion, and I'm not going to be doing fusion with deuterium. I probably could if I really, really wanted to by spamming the hell out of centrifuges. We're pretty. The problem is that would be a pretty big drain on hydrogen, and hydrogen has been admittedly a problem. Um, so actually, the reason why I did plant balls, by the way, is because the compressors were pretty slow. They were also a bottleneck, and I don't have a farm making oak saplings anymore. I was making them from the tree farm. Let me the problem is like the when I did this in Monty Factory for fermented biomass, the greenhouses also produce saplings as a byproduct. They no longer do that in StarTech. The only way to make oak saplings is to sift them, and like that's it. That's the only way to get them. Um, like you can't craft them with mystical agriculture. You can't make them from the greenhouse. There's no recipe for them. The only way to do it is to sift them from leaves or dirt. And that's really annoying. So, and it's not even a great chance either. Uh, so I needed a new source of plant balls, and unfortunately, there's really not a lot of great solutions for plant balls if you're not doing saplings. You can make them from sticky resin, but that's a 10% chance. But we could up tier it, but that's still pretty bad. Um, in terms of compressor, there's a bunch of other things that we could use to make it, but none of them would be any better than making them from just directly essence burning from slime. This is one essence for 16 plant balls, whereas for something like, say, like carrots, we can essence burn this as well, but this would only get us 2 plant balls instead from like nature essence. So if we're not doing, compressing it, because all of these is like 8, we 8 mushrooms, olives 8, 8, 8, 8, all this crap. Only saplings is quick. Like it's only one item here. Um, so it's like, well, I guess it's mystical agriculture or saplings, and saplings would require a create tree farm, which I no longer have. Um, so that sucks. Fermented biomass is a little annoying that way. However, it is the main way we get hydrogen. Because we get hydrogen by electrolyzing methane and actually methanol now. Methanol, what's really nice is methanol doesn't really have a whole lot of uses. Uh, oh my god, I can spell. Like, we used methanol at first to make silicone rubber, sorry, polydimethyl siloxane dust, and was you turn and make that into liquid silicone rubber. This was like the MV recipe. You can use this. You can use methanol in it. There's a few other recipes it's used in, like formaldehyde, glycerol. We don't do acetic acid. We don't need because we get that from other. I believe, we also get that from fermented biomass. We do get it from wood vinegar. So. Water, I don't care about this stuff. Dimethylamine, chloromethane, don't care about that. Like, eh. So, but what's really nice is this electrolyzes into hydrogen gas. It also gives us carbon dust and oxygen gas. So, and this is another source of carbon dust. Carbon dust comes from a lot of sources over here. It comes from electrolyzing methane, comes from electrolyzing methanol. It comes from, we actually electrolyze charcoal dust. I found a use for that. I just dumped that into an electrolyzer. We get it from distilling some of these oil products have a chance to give us carbon dust. Like, I believe actually all of uh, the petrochem have a chance to give us carbon dust. So we have lots of sources of carbon dust, which is nice because we do use it in fusion. Um, so I also threw some bigger drives in here because I noticed we were stocking up on some stuff like hydrogen. I was almost filling up the drive. Um, I do want to keep a little bit of methanol around. I don't throw all of it away. I try to keep around 6 to 10,000 buckets of it because I might use it for some stuff later down the line. But most of it just gets turned into hydrogen. I can also, there's a few other things here that I could turn into hydrogen. Something like butadiene I could turn into hydrogen. This isn't really used for, actually, no, it's not butadiene, it's butane. Butene. That's, hold on. Butene isn't really used for a whole lot if you're not using it. If you're not basically if you're not cracking it into the hydro or steam cracked, which distills into some other stuff that I don't really care about too much. Like yeah, that's methane, but that's really not all that much. And it's a lot of extra steps for I think really not all that much gain. So if you're not cracking this, it's not worth. You should just electrolyze it. And this gives us 2 buckets of hydrogen gas. So I believe this is probably better. I haven't done the exact ratios of what I'd get by trying to crack it into methane and then electrolyzing the methane into hydrogen. Um, Probably would be about the same amount. I don't really know, especially since you'd have to probably hydrocrack it. I don't know if steam cracked. Yeah, that. So we just electrolyze it. And electrolyzing it would give us 2 buckets, and then butadiene, which we do use for some stuff, but you can't electrolyze that any further. But that is a lot more useful than butene would be. Um, I think I don't know if I could electrolyze too much other stuff here. Maybe like ethanol. No. Uh, Acetic acid, I think you can electrolyze, but I don't know if that's worth electrolyzing because we do actually want to use that stuff for some things. Yeah, that turns into a few things. But I don't remember what we use this for. We're going to use this for 3344 benzophenone tetracarbaloxide dianhydride dust. Don't know what that's used for. Anyway, so this has been some serious upgrades. It still needs more upgrades. I need to throw some more fractioning distilleries on these things, just so I get more byproducts and stuff. Like wood, I actually like wood gas gives us more methane and hydrogen, so hydrogen from that. Um, which one? What does this do? This does wood tar, which actually really isn't that useful for hydrogen. We don't really use much of the stuff from wood tar anymore. Um, Wood tar gets us phenol, benzene, creosote, and toluene. I did this because I was wondering if we were going to do benzene power, and we ended up never doing benzene power, specifically through nitrobenzene. Um, where are you? Nitrobenzene is really good for power, but I never ended up going for that. And a lot of these other things we don't use too much of. The creosote's nice because I use that in lubricant actually, but all of this other stuff I don't really do it and can't be electrolyzed. Like I'm really sad dimethylbenzene's so fucking worthless. We get so much of the stuff and you can't do anything with it. It has one use, exactly one use, and that is making phthalic acid. It doesn't do anything else. I wish you could electrolyze it into hydrogen. That would be awesome. That would make doing charcoal byproducts fucking even better than it already is. But it is what it is, right? So, and also, it would be really nice if dimethylbenzene had a frickin' use past like 30 buckets an hour. So, I don't know. Um, let's see. This one over here is wood vinegar. Wood vinegar gets us some stuff as well. But like the methanol from hydrogen. But we're good on hydrogen now, is my point. At least I think we're good on hydrogen. Uh, there's lots of things we electrolyze for it, but we were electrolyzing large stockpiles last night, and I don't know if those large stockpiles are going to keep up. Like, I don't know if my basically if we shoot through those stockpiles, I don't know if we make enough of those things to um, you know, keep the hydrogen demands going because there really aren't a lot of great sources of hydrogen. I keep using use instead of R in recipes. Uh, like we can distill wood gas for it, but I think we're distilling. Yeah, we are okay. We are distilling wood gas. Like we can distill wood gas for this. Uh, the hydrocrack stuff requires hydrogen, so you're just kind of getting that stuff back. Uh, I'd probably electrolyze ethane, maybe. Oh, this would be another good source of it. So I have lots of things I could make it, but basically all of them come from petrochem. All of the good ways come from petrochem, and petrochem has basically just been coasting since I built it, until like last night when I started doing some upgrades. Um, and it might need more upgrades. I don't know. I'm hoping that'll be good enough on hydrogen. At least for the last like ever since I upgraded it, it seems to have been fine. I haven't noticed any problems. Uh, how much ethane do we have? Do we even have any ethane? We don't really have a whole lot of this stuff. So, uh, oh, I can just I can electrolyze acetic acid into this. This comes from naphtha and heavy fuel and stuff. I don't know. Maybe just upgrading oil because, like I said, I'm still running on this one little HV distillation tower, and it's so freaking slow. um, but anyway, Nacklin over here saw some minor upgrades. I was really chewing through all the Nackwood. I actually ran out of Nackwood dust. So this got overclocked. This is actually still at the same speed, but this is doing 16 recipes at once now. The dimensional stabilizers can take parallel hatches, which means I'm never going to build more than one at this stage. Between overclocks and parallel hatches, like that's a lot of stuff. So uh, I finally broke down and built another HIF over here, HIF, for this one does the hot quadri ingots, since we do need that for the 64x parallel hatches, actually. We needed it for something. I think it was for the parallel hatches, but I can't remember. Um, I also built a third one over here, and this one is for hot and rich Naquad ingots, so I have one per ingot rather than trying to do two on one. So I have one for hot trinium and one for hot and rich Naquad ingots. I don't know if these four vacuum freezers are keeping up. Let's take a quick look. I think I remember about how much stuff I had left. No, it is not keeping up, so I'm gonna have to rebuild this. I don't know. The problem is, so the throughput boosted multi-blocks I talked about almost 40 minutes ago. Uh, so they're about they're 3 times as fast. Their thing is they're 3 times as fast as the single block version for the same power cost as one. I might have mentioned that. Um, the problem is I have 4 over here, and in this block, I'd only be able to fit one throughput boosted one. So it would actually be slower than these vacuum freezers. So I have a couple of options here. One option would be to move these EBFs over to this block here. That would give me a set room for a second EBF for something that's particularly slow, probably um, hot enriched Naquita ingots. That being said, though, this is the vacuum freezers aren't keeping up. But we are smelting faster than we get the enriched Naquita dust, sulfate dust. So, like, I don't know if it's gonna be fast enough after it's done chewing through that stockpile. But even after that, it would still have a ton of ingots to go through. So I don't really know. This is also fine for now, I think. I might change some stuff around here sooner, eventually. But right now I'm really not all that concerned about any of that stuff, because I have 47,000 enriched Naquid ingots, 20,000 tritium, and 3,600 Naquadria. Naquadria is really freaking slow. It does 4 ingots every 42 seconds at ZPM. I can throw a 16 amp ZPM hatch on here if I really feel like getting spicy. I could at the very least throw a 4 amp on there, which I might do. But we don't really use too much Naquadria, so it's really not that big of a problem. Um, and then over the EBFs over here actually did get an upgrade. The vacuum freezers over here were too goddamn slow. And they hadn't been, touched since I set them up. So I also used another one of those crafting subnets that I mentioned for on demand. I've been using them all over the place. They're fantastic. Um, and this one just gets stored all of the hot ingots, which gets stored in here rather than being buffered in an HV input bus, which meant that I didn't really have much buffer. I had at one point I realized I had like 4,000 hot ingots in the computer, and I was like, uh-oh. So we have 2 throughput boosted vacuum freezers, so that's as fast as 6. I only had 2 before, and these are also at LUV instead of I believe they were at EV before, maybe IV. Anyway, um, so that's fast enough now. That's because I also set up a HIF for specifically titanium tetrachloride. Titanium tetrachloride gives us more hydrochloric acid back, or hydrofluoric acid back, and this is a byproduct from a couple of different recipes. It comes from nacline as a byproduct, and it comes from netherite line as a byproduct. And I had like 40,000 of that stuff, which was a lot of hydrofluoric acid just sitting on the table. And this one EBF over here was too slow. So I can actually just turn this off. I don't care about that. Um, yeah, these EBFs over here have not been doing fantastic. I don't really use them for a whole lot, and I'm probably just gonna pull them all out, and then just swap them instead for individual HIFs where needed. Most of these things are probably honestly just gonna be done on demand. I don't really know how many of these ingots I really need to do on passive at this stage, because I can just throw huge amounts of power at the problem. When I was setting up these passive systems, I didn't have a buffer. I had to make sure that everything had to be under what I was able to produce, and that meant everything was slow as fuck. Um, that is no longer the case. So I can throw ridiculous amounts of power at things. So I don't really know if I need to passive these things. Also, I'm bulking crafts so often that I'm chewing through 5,000 ingots like in 3 crafts or something, or sometimes even in 1 craft. Um, because I ordered silicon plates literally by 1,024. Uh, like I ordered them 1,024. Actually, you guys want to see how fast that is? Like, watch this. This is awesome. So we're gonna have it here. Let's see. I'm gonna show you guys. Let's see if we can catch it, because this is ridiculously fast. Uh, and it's done. That was it. It's done. The most of the wait time there was waiting for the stocking input buses to see that it had an item, and then it was done instantly. Yeah, it's fucking amazing. They're all like super fast like this. It's fucking it's fantastic. Like I'm curious, how fast will it take me to make 100 auto maintenance hatches? This is a 57,000 byte craft with lots of stuff. Um, let's see. What are you making? 24 tin wire, 36 gold wire, 96 silver, 200 electrum, 400 stainless. You need 400 stainless steel ingots. Another 200 over there. Oh yeah. Okay, this is big. This is a big craft. Show missing only. No missing. Nice. Okay. Let's see how long that takes. I have these mixers divided up into 2 blocks of 4, so I can parallelize different recipes at once. If something is too slow on a block of 4, I can also duplicate the recipe to a larger mixing vessel. I've been told you can use memory cards on pattern providers, and if you have the excess blank patterns in your inventory, you can remember the pattern, and it'll just copy it. Like I'm curious, we can go ahead and try that right now. Here, I'll just plonk one right here. I'll grab a memory card. Where are you? We'll come down over here. Do you have anything in you? You do. I'm gonna need some blank patterns. Nice, nice. That's good. So I can parallelize a bunch of recipes here. I'll have to clear that out in a minute. So if you, oh, is it done? What are you doing right now? Oh, I remember the bottleneck on this was actually the maintenance hatches. These things are done in the assembler and they're super fucking slow. So that's actually gonna take a little bit, but I did everything else in like 20 seconds, which is fucking fantastic. I'm really happy with that. Um, my assemblers are really badly done. I hate how they're set up. They're so freaking slow. I need to come in here with all these recipes and just hit them with do like 64 at a time and better parallel hatches. I've also been told that the 4x parallel hatches are actually slower per item. That apparently based on the time, it's actually slower than doing them one at a time. I haven't actually checked the timing on that, but that's what I've been told. Um, like look how much dead time there is here. Absolutely atrocious. Um, I am sort of waiting to get cleaning hatches. So cleaning hatches allow the assembler to act like it's in a cleaner, right? And in Monty Factory, they were gated to like IV. Uh, So you never really needed a clean room past like making your first couple of IV things. That is not the case in StarTech. They are gated to UV and tritanium. So once I get tritanium and UV machine hulls, which is early machine UV, um, I can then after that I can make cleaning hatches, and I think that's probably not too far away. Um, UV robot arm is we can do all the circuits. I just need to get the titanium. And the titanium comes from fusing titanium and duranium in a Mark II. I have Mark IIs. Duranium comes from fusing gallium and radon in a Mark I. I have Mark Is. So duranium is something that I can do. I need to set up a couple of fusion reactors for that. Probably do two of each. Um, I'm gonna need to figure out radon. Right now, I'm still doing radon via the LCR with air and plutonium and uranium. That's pretty frickin' slow. There's also some other options, like trying to distill liquid under air. The problem is it only gets us one bucket at a time, which is not enough. Um, I can fuse mercury and gold. I don't really have a great source of mercury. Right now, my source of mercury is from cinnabar, which I get as a byproduct of realgar. I don't know if there's raw cinnabar. Is there a cinnabar geode? I know I get cinnabar dust from something. I don't remember what it was. I remember that I was getting. Where were you coming from? Oh, stibnite. This comes from Really? Yes, I was getting this from stibnite in the macerator step. So I have some mercury, but I don't have a lot. That's because I'm actually not even sifting blackstone at this stage, I should mention. The only thing I'm sifting right now is actually just sand. Uh, I have, let's see, this one is sand. Yeah, I have three of these things sifting sand. Oh, okay, two sifting sand and one sifting dust. I actually haven't set up sifting gravel or blackstone yet. I can do that. I was waiting to upgrade ore processing to handle the increased output, which actually might have to wait longer because, like I mentioned, I don't know if ore processing is fast enough. So I might have to spam more machines, which requires more power, which requires fusion. Yep, more fusion is basically the path forward. There's lots of things to do, and all of them rely on more fusion reactors. Oh boy, endgame grunt tech, or endgame grunt tech, everyone. What's the answer to something? Fusion reactor. What machine do you have to build a lot of? Fusion reactor. It's just I'm so sad. um, but that's all right. So let's actually go ahead and here, I'm gonna go. Oh, it's almost done with the available. It's only making the last couple, and then it should be pretty quick. Anyway, let's see. Fusion. What does actually Mark threes take? I'm curious. Mark Fusion. Mark three. Oh, this is dermastidium. Okay, so give me like two more of these. I guess will be good enough. Well, I'm gonna need two for duranium and then two for dermastidium. So give me four. And this is gonna be like 100, 200 fusion casings. Oh my god, that's so expensive. Okay, that's fine. Give me 100 fusion glass. That made me cry a little bit. That's fine. Oh my god. Go take a look at the vacuum freezers. Uh, it, nice. Okay, 4 ticks per ingot. I think the big thing here is liquid helium. That's 15 ticks. Why aren't you working? What's your issue? Do you just not have power? Did I forget to plug you in? Yeah, I did. Anyway, that's about all I've got for this week. Um, on an unrelated note, well, I should say unrelated to Minecraft, note, um, my book's about to be fully posted. I'm very excited and also fucking terrified. I hope people like the hope people like the ending. Endings are always really hard. It's really hard to wrap up everything in a satisfying way, and it's hard to know if it's a satisfying way until someone else has read it. I've had some beta readers which have been very nice, and they both liked it. So hopefully other people like it too. I don't know. Um, that'll be interesting. I've had a great week. Um, I've written so much stuff this week. I wrote 3,000 words on Wednesday. I wrote 2,400 yesterday. I've written no less than at least 1,000 every day. And on multiple days, I've written more than 2,000. And on one day, I wrote more than 3,000, which is my best week of writing and legitimately probably about ever. Um, this new keyboard, the exercises I've been doing, the new desk, my compression gloves. Did I mention I got compression gloves for Christmas? I think so. If I didn't, I got compression gloves for Christmas. Um, these compression gloves have been absolutely fantastic for me being able to comfortably write several thousand words a day. Um, I just, I really want to get published. It's actually crazy. Like, I feel motivated like every day to sit down. I'm gonna be straight up honest with you guys. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. But I am like really excited to, do more stuff. I want to get published. There's a few publishers who I'd really like to get signed with. But Eshkatan is neither long enough in the right genre for them or has a big enough following for them to actually want to pick it up. And I think there's one publisher who probably would, but I don't know how successful Eshkatan would be with them. They don't really seem to have a great like success rate. Like I don't really know any of the books they've published. Uh, they had like one good successful webcomic apparently, which would be really cool. I think Eshkatan could really. I think it would really excel as a webcomic personally. I think it's a very visual story. I don't know if I would want to sign with them though. Uh, for that. I don't know if they would be able to do that or be willing to do that. So I don't know. I would like to be published, and I don't think Eshkatan is going to be the thing I get published. I think I will have to write something else. There are other ideas I want to write, but that would require me to finish Eshkatan first. And what was planning to be book two is probably going to be books two and three. I recently tried a seven. One of the things that really helped me earlier this week, because I got actually stuck. Um, I'd finished a section so thoroughly that I was like, wow, that chapter's done. Now what? It was so good, so well tied off that it didn't really leave me any room to like. There wasn't like a yes and. It was just a yes, right? Scene sequel stuff. That's like story structure. So I finally got around to practicing some planning, and that was I called a 7 point story structure. And one of my author friends, fantastic guy, thank you so much. Walked me through how to do 7 point story structure, how you plan with it. And it was in about an hour and a half, shooting ideas with somebody else. I had a plan for book two, and I just started writing, and it was really great. Uh, and there's a certain percentage of how long each section should be of your book, and I had a goal for book two that it would be about 100,000 words, which would be the same length of as book one. Um, and when it and so I was writing a section, and I'm like, wow, I'm like 20 chapters in or so, 18 chapters in, which is about just short of the halfway mark of what I would expect book two to be in terms of length. So where am I on my outline? I checked. I was still in the hook section, which is like supposed to be like 10% of the book. So it was like, oh my god. Either I stick to this outline, and book two is 250,000 words, or I change the outline and come up with a new end for book two. That's a lot sooner than that was a lot sooner than what I originally planned. So I've tried that, and I think I'm probably gonna do that. One of the reasons why I wanted to cut the book shorter was because you really what you want is you want your first book in the series to be the longest one, because that's the one that's most consistently read. That'll get you the most consistent reads. Um, because you'll have lots of people who might read the first book and then not really want to continue with the second book. So, and a lot of publishers want your first book to be longer than the following books. So, if book two was 2.5 times longer than book one, that would be a huge problem in terms of marketability. Um, I don't really know if that's like a concern for Eshkatan. Man, I love these tea drinks. They're very good, or at least smoothie drinks, I should say. Um, I don't know if marketability is going to be a thing that is necessary for Eshkatan, but it is something that I feel like Eshkatan should be, I should keep in mind. Because what if I do want to self-publish Eshkatan? which would be I have absolutely zero desire to do that. By the way, I've been told it's not that hard. I still don't want to do it. I don't care. I really don't want to do it. I'm hoping, praying, and hoping that I could get it published. I don't know if like a publisher would buy it and do all that work for me. And I do want Eshkatan to be popular. I do want people to read it, um, which would be really nice. But if I have to, I will. What I should say. If I have to self-publish Eshkatan in order to get it published, I will. That doesn't mean I'll fucking like doing it. I'm sure I'll hate every freaking second of it. Um, but if I want to get published as well, I have to build a catalog of stuff that I can point to. Of hey, I published this. It had these metrics. I think I can do that again, or I can do something similar. Or if I write something in the similar genre, I believe that I can bring some of my readership back for something different, etc., etc. So that's ultimately something that I need to do if I want to grow as an author in the professional sense, which at this stage is sort of like just what else? What the fuck else am I gonna do, right? Gestures vaguely to the state of the job market. Um, like, what else am I gonna do? So I guess I just have to be an author, which is it's pretty all right. I enjoy writing. Obviously, I wouldn't write 10,000 words a week if I wrote 10,000 words this week if I didn't like it at least. Uh, so, um, all right. Well, that actually is probably all I've got for today. I've been rambling about books for like 10 minutes or something. Most of you are here for Minecraft anyway. Um, all right. So I hope you guys have had a good week. My week has been fucking fantastic. Absolutely top notch. Just amazing. And I hope you guys have a good next week. And I will see you all again next week.